always from the heart of the city, and now on demand 24/7 on the CHFI website. This is the soundtrack to accompany The Difference. And I'm Don Jackson, around the world on the internet. The author of the classic The Little Prince, published by Harcourt Brace Jovanovich, wrote, "Grown-ups love figures. When you tell them that you have made a new friend, they never ask you any questions about essential matters. They never say to you, 'What does his voice sound like? What games does he love best? Does he collect butterflies?' Instead, they demand, 'How old is he? How many brothers has he? How much does he weigh? How much money does his father make?' Only from these figures do they think they have learned anything about him." Unquote. This hour, The Difference, with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Annie Lennox and Why, and Norah Jones and Come Away With Me. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. This hour, a couple of different approaches to the subject of difference. Consider this. Ivor Noel Hume, archaeologist, and featured in a past issue of the Reader's Digest magazine, said, and I quote, "Peering into the face of a skeleton, an archaeologist cannot help but be aware that he is eyeball to eye socket with someone who knew the answers to many, if not all, of the questions he is asking. For my part, I know that although the bones may be those of a person whose culture rendered him superficially different from me, a cold wind still made him shiver. Liquor fuddled his senses, and in the night, a woman's arms made yesterday and tomorrow unimportant. In these and in virtually every other human emotion, we are alike. Our hands touch, but the silence of eternity holds us apart." Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. John Mayer, Waiting on the World to Change, and Barenaked Ladies with Lovers in a Dangerous Time. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. What about making a difference in the lives of others? Leslie D. Weatherhead, writing in Prescription for Anxiety, published by Abington, said, "When a soldier was wounded and could not get back to safety, his buddy went out to get him against his officer's orders. He returned mortally wounded, and his friend, whom he had carried back, was dead. The officer was angry. 'I told you not to go,' he said. 'Now I've lost both of you. It was not worth it.' The dying man replied, 'But it was, sir. Because when I got to him, he said, "Jim, I knew you'd come." It reminds me of that scene in the film A Bridge Too Far, the scene where James Caan makes a promise to protect a friend and just about gets himself court-martialed trying to get surgery performed on his wounded friend in a MASH unit. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Peter Cetera with The Glory of Love, Enrique Iglesias and Hero, and Bette Midler, From a Distance. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Michael E. DeBakey, noted heart surgeon and quoted in Look magazine some years back, said, "For me, the solitude of early morning is the most precious time of day. There is a quiet serenity that disappears a few hours later with the hustle and bustle of the multitude. Early morning hours symbolize for me a rebirth. The anxieties, frustrations, and woes of the preceding day seem to have been washed away during the night. God has granted another day of life, another chance to do something worthwhile for humanity." Unquote. Again, in this case, making a difference in the lives of others. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Josh Groban, Awake, and the Fray, and How to Save a Life. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. This anonymous writing was quoted by the Minnesota Literacy Council. As the old man walked the beach at dawn, he noticed a young man ahead of him picking up starfish and flinging them into the sea. Catching up with the youth, he asked him why he was doing this. The answer was that the stranded starfish would die if left until the morning sun. "But the beach goes on for miles, and there are millions of starfish," countered the other. "How can your effort make any difference?" The young man looked at the starfish in his hand, and then threw it to safety in the waves. "It makes a difference to this one," he said. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Deborah Cox, Beautiful You Are, and Elton John, and Someone Saved My Life Tonight. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. And finally, this by another anonymous writer, and quoted in the newsletter of the First Christian Church in Fairfield, Illinois. Is anybody happier because you passed his way? Does anyone remember that you spoke to him today? Can you say tonight, in parting with the day that's slipping fast, that you helped a single brother of the many that you passed? Is a single heart rejoicing over what you did or said? Does the man whose hopes were fading now, with courage, look ahead? Did you leave a trail of kindness or a scar of discontent? As you close your eyes in slumber, do you think that God will say, "You have earned one more tomorrow by the work you did today"? Making a difference in the lives of others. This hour with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. I hope you will tell all your friends about lovers and other strangers. Good night, sweet dreams. I'm Don Jackson.